All right, how's everybody doing here today? So today we are going to continue working on completing the square, which we started yesterday. Hopefully you guys are finding it fairly easy. If you take a look today, going to be very similar to yesterday, but one thing you should notice that's a little bit different with this initial problem that you see here, 2x squared minus 8x equals negative 6, is that we have a value of 2 for our a. Yesterday, we just dealt with problems that were x squared. So that's going to have us have a slightly different step 1 here, which is going to be to divide every term by a. So in this particular example, a is 2. We want to get rid of that 2 so that it looks like those problems that we did yesterday. So if you have something in front of your x squared, in this case 2, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and divide each term by 2. And what that's going to allow you to do is get that x squared so it's by itself. So we're going to have x squared minus 4x, and then on the other side over here, negative 3. Now our next step would be to isolate our constant. However, this problem, luckily, our constant is already isolated, so we don't have to do that in this particular scenario. Then we're going to go to our next step, which is to take half of our b, square it, and add it to both sides. So I'm going to take half of negative 4, which is negative 2, and I'm going to square it. Negative 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to add that to both sides. Then we're going to factor our left side. Again, if you need to, you can make one of these x's. We put a 4 on the top, a negative 4 on the bottom, and we're going to end up with negative 2 and negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, but negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. So this is going to be x minus 2 squared equals negative 3 plus 4, which is 1. Now, if you haven't noticed this yet, when we go to factor our left side, in here is always just going to be whatever half of b was. So in this case, that's negative 2 squared. So if my b was 8, this would be plus 4. Okay, so whatever that b is, if we take half of it, that's going to be an easy way to factor it, so we don't have to make this off to the side. But if you want to do that, no problem in doing that. All right, so our final step here is we've got to solve. So we're going to get rid of our squared like we did yesterday by taking the square root. When you take the square root of a square, it gets rid of it. So we have x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 1, which is just 1. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So I have x equals 2 plus or minus 1. And that's going to leave me with 2 answers, 2 plus 1, which is 3, or 2 minus 1, which is 1. So my 2 roots in this particular example are 3 and 1. All right, let's do one more quick example just to make sure that we've got this down. So let me just clear this off. All right, so for this particular example, it's 3x squared minus 18x minus 42 equals 0. All right, so again, we have something in front of our x squared. We have an a, so we want to get rid of that. So we're going to divide each term here by 3. So when I do that, I'm left with x squared minus 6x minus 14 equals 0. Now we want to isolate that constant. So that means we're going to move our negative 14 over to the other side. So it's going to be x squared minus 6x equals positive 14. When I move it over. Step 3, we're going to take half of b, square it, and add it to both sides. So my b here is -6. We're going to take half of it, which would be -3, and then square it. So that will be +9 on both sides. Then we're going to factor our left side. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and you can make that little x off to the side. But I know that it's always going to be half of that b term. So half of -6 is -3. And so it'll be x minus 3 squared equals 14 plus 9, which is 23. Then I'm going to solve. I do that by taking my square root on both sides. So it's x minus 3 equals positive and negative square root of 23. I can't really do anything with square root of 23. That's not a perfect square like I had last time, so I'm just going to leave that as square root of 23. And I'm going to add my -3 to both sides. So I have 3 plus or minus the square root of 23. So two different answers, 3 plus the square root of 23 and 3 minus the square root of 23. All right, hopefully you found those examples helpful. And I will come back tomorrow with another video on completing the square. Good luck on the practice.